Student protests against a new citizenship law in India have spread to more campuses across the country. Police in the northern city of Lucknow have kept students locked behind gates to stop them from heading into the streets.
Anger against the government has been further fueled by allegations of police brutality during protests. At least 100 students have reportedly been injured during clashes with police at a New Delhi campus. Tear gas and batons were used against the protesters, and several students were detained but later released.
The epicenter of the protest is Assam
That's in India's northeast. Now, violence there has killed at least 6 people. The new Citizenship Amendment Bill would fast-track citizenship for minorities from 3 neighbouring countries, but it does not make the same provisions for Muslims.
Critics
say the bill weakens India's secular foundations. Our correspondent Neha Punya joins us from New Delhi. So, Neha, Minister of Home Affairs, he has hinted that the law could be tweaked to actually address those concerns. Do we know what those tweaks are? Would it actually appease the protesters?
All we've heard so far from the Interior Minister Amit Shah is that he's willing to talk about the concerns that many state governments have expressed, at least 5 regional governments saying they're not going to implement this law because they're concerned about unchecked migration and also the changing demographic of the regions that they govern. You have the Prime Minister speaking a short while back as well. He tweeted to say that he condemns the violence we've seen at many of these student gatherings that have taken place in different parts of the country in the last 24 hours. He's made an appeal for calm and also said that it's important to remember that this particular law does not target any existing citizen of India. It simply talks about giving refuge to persecuted minorities who have no other country to go to except for India, which is why this is a necessary thing for the government to do. But so far, it's unclear what the government's steps are going to be in the days ahead. They've issued an advisory to all police departments in every Indian state, urging them to ensure they do everything they can to keep law and order in check. Since that demonstration here in Delhi on Sunday, we've seen similar protests take place in at least 10 other Indian universities. Even as I speak to you, you've got Priyanka Gandhi, who is a senior leader of the Congress party, India's main opposition party, holding a demonstration at the heart of Delhi. So pressure on the government is building up. They're indicating they're willing to change some of the provisions of this law, but have not really said what those changes are going to be and when, if at all, those changes will be implemented.
And Neha, the Supreme Court will hear petitions tomorrow on the violence that broke out during Sunday's protests, as you mentioned. How significant is this?
It is quite significant because a lot of the students that were at the forefront of that clash with the police, they've alleged that there was a lot of high-handedness. They claim that the police stormed their university campus without any provocation and without any permission. You've also got the university officials themselves saying they're going to lodge a police complaint to find out what was the trigger for this, why the police felt the need to tear gas students while they were in closed classrooms, why the need to bait and charge students when they were holding what was essentially a very peaceful protest. They've distanced themselves from the instances of violence that broke out in Delhi on Sunday, where several cars were torched and stones pelted at police personnel. But the Supreme Court did admit that petition on Monday, but clarified that as long as there's violence going on the streets, it's refused to listen to any of the requests coming forth from the students. But in this current atmosphere, where there's a lot of political blame game going on between the government, the police and the students, many are hoping the Supreme Court will perhaps chart out what the road ahead is going to be to try and end what has now been almost a week of violence in different parts of the country.
Okay, May, thanks for that. Neha Punya speaking to us from New Delhi.